So I asked you to do the non-permissible values for these. So we have a 2 and an x, yes? So my denominator is 2x. I can do this if it's a monomial. Monomial means no plus or minus sign, correct? Monomial means one term. A binomial is more than one term. It could be two terms. But their terms are attached by plus or minus signs. Okay? This is a 2 and an x. Is there a plus or minus sign in there at all? No. So it is a monomial. It is one term. So we put brackets around this. Okay? And I can even put brackets around the top if I want to as well, because we're going to be simplifying after this. Anything that is not attached by a plus or minus sign is a monomial. So for example, if you look at C, C's denominator is a monomial, but C's numerator is a binomial. And I need to get you guys to understand that, because what people will think is that they can separate this 8 and this y in the top of C, but you can't. 8 and y is like the head, and 2 is like the feet, and the plus sign is like the body, and it's a whole human. You can't just like cut its head off because you feel like it. Okay? So this 8y plus 2 would actually have its own brackets around it. Bless you. And then the 8 and the y would have single brackets. Because the 8y on the bottom is a true monomial. There's no plus or minus signs on that denominator. Yes? They go separate. But the 8y plus 2 are attached with that plus sign. It's like super glue. They're sewn together. So you can't just separate this 8 and this y. The 8 and the y is the head. The 2 is the feet. The plus sign is the body, and we're like connecting them. Okay? Let's go up here. We have a plus 1. They already have connected. Head is the a, feet is the 1, plus is the body. This one, a is the head, 6 is the feet, negative 1 is the body. A is the head, 7 is the feet, subtraction is the body. A is the 1, 1 is the feet, plus sign is the body. Do you see how those are like one full thing? Think about it as like a sideways human. It will work like a plus 1. There's my human. See? Put the bottom. There we go. It's my a plus 1 person. No arms. We don't care. Thank you. Sure. That was that speed. So, happy to be here. See? Totally good. But if I have a 2x, I have a snowman. What can I do with a snowman? And if you don't believe me, watch Frozen. Olaf's head falls off numerous times. It's a legit thing. He has to get it back and then get it. So maybe your activity tonight is watch Frozen and watch Olaf separate. Understand? That's no plan you can. Or if there's enough snow and you see one out there and a child has put it together, don't kick it over. But just imagine you pull it apart. Because you will destroy their hearts. I wouldn't do that, but you can imagine that you This is not good. Okay. So we are going to look at A. A are two snowballs, right? A 12 and an x squared, a 2 and an x. We have to state non-permissible values always before we cancel. So we look at that denominator. And our non-permissible values are our restrictions. We state off to the side. So our restrictions, we can say 2 can't equal 0. What's up with that? 2 can't equal 0 is a true statement. Yes? Does it give me a non-permissible value though? No. Non-permissible values come from what a variable can't equal. Correct? Is there a variable at all involved in this statement? No. True statement, don't care about it. And then I have x can't equal 0, which is the greatest thing ever. Because it can't. Then I told you we can check, correct? We can plug back into the original denominator and see if we get 0. So if I want to check this, I can go 2 times 0. What does that equal? 0, which is what I want it to equal, because that's why I say it can't be that, right? So if x was 0, would my denominator become 0? Yes. And am I allowed to have a denominator of 0? No, which is why it's an NPV, a non-permissible value or restriction. Okay? All right. Then we go to simplifying. So I'm going to rewrite this because it looks all messy. So I have a 12 in a snowball and an x squared in a snowball over a 2 in a snowball and an x in a snowball. And they can be in snowballs because there's no plus or minus signs, which are the body that sucks them together. Correct? Do you agree? So now what I do is, if there's snowballs and something matches in a snowball, I can cancel them off. Okay? So I have a 12 and a 2. Can I take anything out of both of them? 2. So if I take a 2 out of 2, remember when you take it out, it's division. 2 divided by 2 is crossed off. Did you guys know that these cross-offs are just slanted ones? That's a slanted 1. That's all it is. Because when you cancel it off, it's a 1, right? 2 divided by 2 is a 1. Yes? What's 12 divided by 2? It's a 6. So I still have a 6 here. And technically, this slanted line is a 1. So I technically have 6 times 1, which is just 6, right? And then you look at the x and the x squared. Can I take something out of both of them? An x. Because what is an x squared just the same as? X times x. Could I not just write it out like that if I so chose? Cross that 2 off and write out 2 x's, right? Because an x times an x is an x squared. Do we agree? And then this x can cancel off one of those x's. And so what am I left with? 6 times 1 times 1 times x, which is 6x, over 1 times 1, which is 1. If the 1 is in the denominator, do I need to write it? No. If the 1 is in the numerator, do I need to write it? Yes. Tell 1/4 that you don't have to write the 1. If you don't write the 1 and 1/4, it's 4. Is 1/4 equal to 4? No. So the 1 always stays. So I'm going to get equal 6x, and I'm always going to follow behind with a semicolon and my restriction. 6x and x can't equal 0. So you always state restrictions before you cancel. Okay? So people are like, but I don't have a denominator anymore. My problems are all gone. But you did. At any point in time when you did have a denominator, you have to state what the restrictions would be, or this step would fail immediately. Okay? So you always state restrictions before you cancel. Do you think they'll have the answer stated with restrictions after you cancel for an oopsie? Like they'll just say 6x and not have a restriction? There's no restrictions. Yes, they'll do that. You have to state restrictions before you cancel. Okay, I'm going to look here and I'm going to state my restrictions first. So right now I have 2 people. I have an A-7 person and an A+1 person. Do we agree? A-7 attached as a human because the minus sign attaches them. And the A+1 attached as a human. Correct? I even drew the A+1 human over there. Okay? So I'm going to state my restrictions. I take each of the brackets separately and I say they can't equal what? 0. So A-7 can't equal 0. A+1 can't equal 0. This one I'm going to add 7 to both sides. And A can't equal 7. That's one of my restrictions. This one I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. And A can't equal -1. So my NPVs are A can't equal 7, -1. They'll put them together. Then I say to myself, if snowballs can cancel, they can cancel, and if humans can cancel, they can cancel. So if it's a human meaning that plus or minus sign in between, they have to be twins in order to cancel. Okay? Are there any twins in the numerator and in the denominator?
Yes.
Who? A+1. I would have to draw another one of these with me replicating that same thing. It's probably not going to happen, so you can imagine it. So this one cancels off this one. Can the A's of the A-6 and the A of the A-7 cancel? No, you're cutting heads off 2 humans. You are mean, and you should feel bad about yourself. You just decapitated 2 humans, 2 little A humans. Okay? You can't. If it is a human, the only way it can cancel is if there's a twin, correct? So I have an A-6 human. It's only going away if there's an A-6 in the bottom. Is there? Nope, it's the same for life. A-7 human. Only canceling if there's an A-7 human in the numerator. Is there? No. So can either of those get any better? No. That's it. Problem often with most of you is extra simplifying. If you think you're doing good things, but you actually just went way too far and decapitated people. And that was awful. Made people sad. All right. So we have A-6 in the top and an A-7 in the denominator. Those are left. And then I have to follow behind with A can't equal 7 and -1. Do you see how I stated the -1 even though it's gone? As restrictions must be stated before you cancel. So this one here, I have an 8y plus 2. Okay? An 8y plus 2. Do you see that? I have an, you're not writing this, I'm just proving a point. I have an 8y plus 2. We agree? So I have an 8y as the head, a plus sign as the body, and a 2 as the legs. Some feet, little hands. I'm going to teach art next year too, along with English. I'm just so good at it. So do I have an 8y plus 2 human? The 8y is the head. Hi, friend. What's happening? Good, good, cool. Always good when PJ's here to learn because he teaches everyone all the knowledge of all the things. So we have an 8y plus 2 human. We agree? On the bottom, we have a what? 8y what? Quit looking at PJ. He's here to learn. 8y is what? A snowman. So on this page we have an 8y as well, but the 8 and the y are snowmen. So we have 8, we have y. I can't draw fingers. It's a little rough. They're all kind of disasters. But I have a human and a snowman. Can I ever cross a human off with snowman? No. Can I cross a human off with human? Can I cross a snowball off with snowball? Yes. So, when I go back to this one, is it going to get any better than what it currently is? Human on the top, snowball, snowball. Can I cross off snowballs with humans? No, so that bad boy's staying. I'm just going to rewrite it because I'm so cool like that. Ooh, what can I take out of the top, though? Could take out a 2 as well. So currently how it is, I can't take out anything. But in the top, I could take out a 2. I'm left with 4y plus 1. And on the bottom, an 8 and a y. You state NPVs. And then try and cancel some stuff. Does 8 create an NPV? Does 8 create an NPV? Restrictions. We would say 8 can't equal 0. Is that a non-permissible value or a restriction? No, it's a true statement. Why? Now it changed. I had blue and black at one point, but in the transition it decided to stop. Okay. Then I have the y, right? Y can't equal 0. That one's done. Yay, I have my 1 NPV. Okay? So initially I had an 8y plus 2 human, and then I had an 8 and a y snowball, and we said nothing can cancel, correct? Did we agree with that statement? Now, in the top, I took out this 2. It's just sitting here. I took out the 2 because I GCF'd a 2 out of 8y plus 2. We did this, yes, we did this at the very beginning, right? When we take a 2 out of 4, or 8y, I'm left with 4y, plus sign 2 out of 2 is a 1. We agree? Now, this is the hard part. Is that 2 a snowball or a human? It's a snowball, because if it was a human, it would have a plus or minus sign with it. Does it have a plus or minus sign with it, or is it just a 2? Just a 2. So it's a snowball. Do you see that? So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to make the black ones all snowballs. And then the blue one I'm going to leave be a human. Do you see that? Is there any other humans other than 4y plus 1? No, so that bad boy's staying. Like I literally can't get it to go away. It is a human, right? So I'm going to get a 4y plus 1 in the numerator. And everyone who's on their phones is not going to be on phones. We agree? Okay. Then we have a 2 in the numerator, and it can cancel off snowballs in the denominator. Do we agree? Is there anything in the denominator that I could get a 2 out of that this would work? The 2 and the 8, right? Numerator and denominator are the only things that can cancel. We agree? I'll make it red. So this 2 and this 8, I can take a 2 out of both of them. We agree? They're both snowballs. I can take something out of them. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now, can this y snowball cancel off anything in the numerator? No, the only way a y snowball can cancel off anything is if there's a y, or a y squared, or a y cubed by itself, or a y4 by itself. Because a y4 by itself is just a y and a y and a y and a y. A y cubed by itself is just a y snowball, y snowball, y snowball, right? So for example, if I had a y cubed sitting here, I could rewrite it as y, which would technically be 3 snowballs. Which is a legit snowman. I've drawn 2 snowballs. Yeah, this looks like legit. Okay? So y cubed is the same as a y times a y times a y, which is snowball, snowball, snowball. Right? Does that make sense? Snowballs can cancel off snowballs, humans for humans. I know this sounds ridiculous, but it's the only way I can get people to cancel things for. Okay? All right. So I have a y here. Can it cross off the y on the 4y plus 1? No, the 4y plus 1 is a human. I rewrote it. I can't actually do anything with it. So the 1 times 4y plus 1 just stays a 4y plus 1. In the bottom, I get a 4 and a y. And I can leave them in separate brackets, or I could just write it as a 4y, correct? This is where the issue lies. I get people canceling this 4y off with that 4y. Are we allowed to do that? Snowball, snowball, human. Can't do that. Okay? So you can only do snowballs for snowballs, humans for humans. So this is done. And then I follow behind with restrictions. Y can't equal 0. Answer. Okay. We're going to look at D next. Let's look at D next. I have, if I look at D, just so you know, I have a human. What's in the denominator? You're practicing. Gotcha. What's the denominator? A human or a snowball? The bottom? 49 is the head, minus sign is the body, x squared is the feet. It's a human. Remember, when you have a minus or a plus sign, that's the body of a human. We agree? Okay. Currently, can I do anything to this? I have a human that is minus x plus 7, and I have a human that is 49 minus x squared, and I told you only twins can cancel. Yeah?
Could you do difference of squares in the denominator?
You can do difference of squares in the denominator, but currently as it sits, I can do nothing. I can't cancel anything off the way it is. So I think, is there maybe something I can do? And often what people are missing is a GCF or a difference of squares. Okay, so let's look down here. So we have, in the numerator, negative x plus 7. Then in the denominator, what are we going to get? We're going to get 2 brackets. The square root of 49 is a 7. So that has to go at the front. We don't have an option. You can't just put it at the back because you're like, I like it better at the back than to have the x in the front. So that's just what I like. You can't do that. You have to put them in the order they are. So the square root of 49 is 7. Square root of x squared is x. And then we have to have a plus minus sign, right? Okay. Let's do NPVs now. Because we always have to state NPVs before we cancel. So if you're like, ooh, I see things that can cancel, I'm going to start canceling, because you'll see things that match it and make you kind of happy. Slap your hand and be like, no. State restrictions first. Okay? Always have state restrictions before you cancel. So if you're like, I'm going to cut. No, Crystal. No, girl. You were going to cancel first. And then I'll be like, oh, yeah, right. And then I cancel after I state my NPV. So let's talk about these ones. So we have 1 human, 2 human, 3 humans sitting up here, right? But I only care about the bottom 2 for restrictions, because only my denominator can equal 0. So my restrictions are going to be 7 plus x can't equal 0, and 7 minus x can't equal 0. So here I can subtract 7 from both sides, and x can't equal negative 7. For the next one, I could subtract 7, but what would be a faster way to get x by itself? If it's a minus x, how could I move it to the other side? Plus it. So I can just add it over. And then I get 7 equals x. And I'm done. So I'm going to say my restrictions together. X can't equal plus or minus 7. And there's my restriction. Now, I have to have done slapping my hand. Me like, say restrictions. I got them all restricted. I don't need to slap my hand anymore. The restrictions are out there. We agree? Now I need to have the humans be twins, is what I said. And like identical, like you need to paint their toenails twins. Like you cannot tell them apart. Like they need to be everything the same. They can't have different hair. They can't have anything different. They need to be exactly the same, replicas. Okay? So some people say, well, the order doesn't matter. The order doesn't matter. It matters that the sign in front of it is the same. Okay? So let's look at these two. I know 7 plus x ain't going to match because there's no like x plus 7 in the top or 7 plus x in the top, right? But perhaps these ones do. So let's look. I have negative x plus 7, and this one I have plus 7 and negative x. Do they actually match? I have a negative x and a negative x and a positive 7 and a positive 7. Do they actually match? They do match. They're out of order. Do I care if they're out of order? No. And if the out of order messes with you, write them in order so that you can see it. So I'm going to show you. I can go negative x plus 7 up here. Leave that one the way it is. And then my denominator, I can write x's first if I want to, so that I can see that they actually match. Okay? We're going to write them the same. So this is going to be positive x, positive 7. And then this one is going to be what? Negative x, because I have to take the sign with it. We agree? And positive 7. So do they actually match? Yes, they do. They match. So if they're out of order, write them both in the same order and see if they match. See, I took negative x, positive 7, positive 7. You see how I just wrote them in a different order? But I took their sign with them. Correct? You have to take what sign is with them. Now do they match completely? Do I have a twin on the top and a twin on the bottom? Negative x plus 7. Yeah.
So this might be a dumb question, but when you were doing like the 49 minus x squared and you said the 7 had to go first, like you can't just say
You have to list them first. List the other ones first. Put the signs in it. Then once you're done doing the difference of squares, you can reorder them. But you have to, because it has to be a negative x, right? So it has to be 7's first, x is next, plus x minus x. That's totally correct. You have to do it in that order. And then you can rewrite them with the x's first if you so choose. But you're going to get a negative x if you write it first. Right? If you write them flip-flop the other way right away, you're going to get x minus 7, x plus 7, which is not what it is. Okay. So this one and this one cancel. What did I tell you if the numerator cancels? You are left with a 1. Do you have to write the 1? Let's talk about it. So if I have 4 over 1, not numerator 1, denominator 1, I can write that as 4. Is that a true statement? Everyone's paying attention? Because I'll lose people with this. 4 over 1 equals 4. That is true? We agree? So that's if my denominator is a 1. So if my denominator is a 1, I don't have to write it. We agree? Because every number is actually a fraction. The number 5 is a fraction. It's 5 over 1. Right? But I don't have to write the 1 if it's in the denominator. But what if I give you a quarter? Can I just drop the 1 off and write it as 4? Is that a true statement? A quarter equals 4? Tell that to a person who has a quarter of a pizza and is really hungry. Very different. You're not saying. Not saying. So can we drop the 1 off the denominator? Yes, 4 equals 4. Can I drop the 1 off the numerator and say it equals 4? No. So when you are left with a 1 in the numerator, you have to write that 1. If there's a 1 just left in the denominator, you can say, I don't need it. Could you write the 1 in the denominator? Sure. It's just you don't have to. All right. So going back here. I'm going to have, remember, these are all just slanted 1s, correct? That's what slashes are. So I get 1 over x plus 7 times 1, which is just x plus 7. And then what do I have to write at the end? X, yeah, the restrictions, the non-divisible values, the NDVs. X can't equal plus or minus 7. Okay? We're going to look at E. The numerator in E is a what? A human? or snowballs? The numerator in E. Is it a human or snowballs? It's a human because I have the head, the body is the minus sign, the feet are the 8p. What about the denominator? Human or snowballs? Human. I have the head, the body is the minus, the feet are the 4p squared. Now I told you that we can only cross off humans for humans that match exactly the same. Replicas, every way, shape, or form. Do any of these match? The top is a 12p squared minus 8p. The bottom is a 6p cubed minus 4p squared. They couldn't be any more different if you tried. So do you just say we're done? Or what do you always look for? Take out GCFs or difference of squares every single time. Numerators and denominators. Make it into a form that maybe does match. So this is why we practice the GCF and difference of squares at the very beginning of the lesson. Very beginning of this unit. So can I take out a GCF from 12p squared minus 8p? Yes. Now if you're someone who can't do GCFs or difference of squares, you have to get past the point of denial and get straight to acceptance and come in and be like, Mrs. Lepp, I have no clue how to do GCF or difference of squares. I'd say, you know what, girl? You know what, guy? You know what, person? I will help you. Because if you can't do GCFs or difference of squares, you can't do any of these lessons. Because it's the first step in every lesson. Okay? Like if I can't do a GCF or a difference of squares here, I'm just done. Like, good question, Lepp. Awesome. I can't do anything. Great. So much love this unit. It is amazing. So like if you are in like, I'm going to get it. It'll eventually click land. Get past denial. Just be like, girl, you're right. I got nothing. And then you just come in and be like, Mrs. Lepp, come on. I need help. Like lots of help. Like, and then we just work through it. And then you can do the questions. Okay? There are people who will get to the last lesson and still can't do GCFs or difference of squares. And they're like, you know what, Mrs. Lepp, I'm finally at that point. I was like, you should have been at that point 5 lessons ago. So we're just going to get there. It's going to be totally fine. I will not judge you. I do not care. Right? You will come in and we will learn it. And then I will judge you if it's the last unit and you're like, Mrs. Lepp, I still can't do it. Then the little judgment's going to come up. But if it's right now, that's not judgy. I want you to come in. Okay? I want you to get help. All right. 2p squared minus 8p. Actually, I will tell you right now. The moment I will judge you is if it's the unit exam. If it is the unit exam and you walk in and you're like, I can't do GCF or difference, I will judge you. Previous to that, there will be no judgment. I will be sad if you don't come in. Okay? 12p squared minus 8p. What can I take out of both? A 4, because 12 and 8 I can divide by 4. And a p, because p squared and p, the smallest is taking out a p. Then I have a bracket. In that bracket is what's left over when I take that out, correct? So if I have 2 terms that I'm GCFing out, I'm going to have 2 terms after I'm done GCF. So 12p squared, take out a 4p. 12 divided by 4 is 3. P squared, take out a p is p. Then I have a minus sign. What's 8p divided by 4p? 2. Now this 3p minus 2 is a what? Human or a snowball? 3p minus 2. Human, because when I go 3p minus, that's the body. It's a human. The 4 and the p, what are they? They are snowballs. I want a different color. Okay, so the 4 and the p are snowballs. Why are they snowballs and not humans? There's no addition or subtraction. There's no body between them, correct? They're just a snowball on top of a snowball. Okay, let's look at the bottom. 6p cubed minus 4p squared. Can I take out a GCF of something? You can take out a 2 and a p2. So I take out a 2 and a p squared. 6p cubed divided by 2p squared. 6 divided by 2 is 3. P cubed, take out a p squared is a p. Minus 4 divided by 2 is 2. P squared, take out a p squared is nothing. And then you're like, wow, they match. And you really badly want to cross them off because you see 2 humans that are twins. And you're like, girl, I got this. I got this. I'm all over this. I am, yeah. And you want to cancel them off, but then you slap your hand and you're like, no. Mrs. Lepp said, I have to state restrictions before I cancel, so stop the madness. But be happy that you know things are matching. Okay, now the 2 and the p squared, are they snowballs or a human? 2p squared. Snowballs. Why are they snowballs? There's no plus or minus sign body between them. Yes? So they're separate snowballs. We agree? Now, every bracket we have to go and try and state non-permissible values for. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go restrictions. Okay. So my restrictions are going to be 2 can't equal 0 because that's one of the brackets. Is that actually a restriction or just a true statement? Is it a true statement? 2 can't equal 0. Yes. Very true. Don't care about it though because it doesn't have a variable. Variable meaning a letter, right? Then we have p squared. P squared can't equal 0. Whether it's a p squared, p cubed, p4, p5, p6, p7, p8, p9, p10, all by itself, it's going to be not equal to 0. Why? Because if I square root 0, I get 0. If I cube root 0, I get 0. If I eighth root 0, I get 0. If I 170 billion trillion million root 0, I get 0. Okay? And then I have my last one, which is 3p minus 2 equals 0. Can't equal 0. This one, people will often say p can't equal 2 and stop. Remember, I need to get p by itself, yes? How do I, have I 3p minus 2? We're going back to grade 7. My daughter is doing these grade 7. So 3p minus 2. How do I get rid of the minus 2, which is what I have to deal with first? Add 2. Now I have 3p can't equal 2. And then I said to my daughter, because this is the first time she's seen solving equations, I said to her, 3 is being what to the p? What operation? Times. What's the opposite of operation of multiplication? Divide. So we're going to go and we're going to divide it by 3. And then she was like, oh, that makes sense. And so then you have p can't equal 2/3. Box it. So whenever you are solving, guys, whenever you do anything else, you're doing BEDMAS. Whenever you solve, you're trying to get away from the variable, so you do reverse BEDMAS. So you have to do all the additions and subtractions first, and then the multiplication and divisions last. Yeah. Okay, so what cancels here? 3p minus 2, the twins, those cancel. Everyone's usually pretty good with that. I can cancel because I stated restrictions. The 4 and the 2 are snowballs. So I can try and attempt to cancel something out of those. What can I cancel out of a 4 and a 2? A 2. So 2 divided by 2 is a 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Then I have another snowball on the top and the bottom. One is a p. The other one is a p squared. You can take a p out of both of them. Because what is a p squared just the same as? P times p. We agree? So I can cross this p off with one of these. And I'm just left with a p to the 1 down here. Or you could just write p. Do I have to write p to the 1? No. If it's to the 1, I can just write p. So now we write what's left over. Do you see how I have equal signs running down the left-hand side always? You should as well. Because this equals this, equals this, equals, you know what I mean? So I have left. Remember, what are slanted lines the same as? What are slanted lines just? 1. So I have 2 times 1 times 1 times 1. So what's my numerator? A 2. And then the denominator, I have 1 times p times 1. P. And then I'm not done. What do I have to follow behind with? Restrictions. So p can't equal 0 or 2/3. Okay, we're going to look at f. The numerator in f, is that a human or a snowballs? The numerator in f, the top in f. Human or snowballs? It's a human because 3t squared is the head, minus is the body, 75 is the feet, and then on the bottom I have 2 humans. Correct? Are there any twins in the numerator or the denominator currently? No. So then I have to ask myself, is there something I could do to the numerator or the denominator to simplify it? Well, the denominator is 2t plus 3t minus 5. There's nothing I could do to those. They're done. Is there something I could do to the numerator? 3t squared minus 75. Remember, our first step is always GCF difference of squares, the numerators and the denominators. Is there something I could do with that numerator? Take out a 3. So if I take a 3 out, 3t squared divided by 3 is t squared, minus 75 divided by 3 is 25. So this is a human. What's the 3? Snowman. So I'm going to put the snowman as a blue. Nothing matches still, so I'm kind of sad. Some people are like, well, I can cross the 3 off with the 3 on the t plus 3. That's a snowball, that's a human. Can I do that? No. Why? What can I do? A difference of squares. That t squared minus 25 is the difference of squares. So once I took the 3 out, I was left with a human, but that human is the difference of squares. So my snowball is the 3. And then I'm going to get 2 humans from the difference of squares. It stays the same. No humans. Okay, what's the square root of t squared? T. What's the square root of 25? 5. So I'm going to get a t at the front of each bracket, and then a 5 at the back of each bracket, because it has to go in order, and then a plus or minus sign. And now you see 2 humans that match. You get very excited. You slap your hand and you're like, no, no, girl. I need to first do what? NPVs, non-permissible values, restrictions. Okay, I stopped myself. So my restrictions, what are they going to be? I have t plus 3 can't equal 0. Do I care what the numerator is? No, it's allowed to equal 0. I subtract 3 and I get t can't equal negative 3 as one of my restrictions. And then I get t minus 5 can't equal 0. I add 5. And I get t can't equal 5. So I have 2 restrictions. Once my restrictions are stated, what can I do? Cancel off humans with humans, snowballs with snowballs. We agree? Okay. So what can I cancel off? Are there any humans that match? T minus 5. Those humans match. And then I have t plus 5, t plus 3. Do they have any twins on the top and the bottom? No, so I know they're staying for life. So I know I have a t plus 5 is going to stay forever, and the t plus 3 is going to stay forever because there's no humans that match. And then I have one little individual snowball. The only way a snowball can cancel off is with another snowball. Is there a snowball in the denominator that we could even be like, hey, should we cancel it off? No, there's not. So that 3 snowballs stay in. And what can't I forget to do? Restrictions. T can't equal negative 3 comma 5. And make sure you box your solutions, bubble them, I don't really care. But you did a lot of work. You should be loud and proud of that answer. Yeah. What does this say? Your turn. What do you suppose it is for you to do? Your turn. Yeah. Try it. So A, I'm going to put an equal sign here. I have an 18 and an x4, both as snowballs. And I have a 36 and an x7, both as snowballs. Because there's no plus or minus signs to make a body, right? So I go to state my restrictions, or my NPVs, which are non-permissible values, not MVPs, like an MVP, most valuable player. It's an NPV. Everyone tells me it's MVPs. Kind of funny. It's non-permissible values, not non-values permissible. Okay, NPVs. So we have 36 can't equal 0. Is that a true statement or an NPV? True statement. Then I have x to the 7 can't equal 0. Then I take the 7th root. 7th root, 8th root, billionth root of 0 is what? 0. So whenever it's an x squared, x cubed, x fourth, x 5, x 6, x 7, your NPV will just be x can't equal 0. Every time. All right? Now I say, I have 2 snowballs on the top, 2 snowballs on the bottom. Remember, when it is actually a human, they have to match exactly the same in every way. Humans can only cancel off a twin. Snowballs, you can go in there and say, is there anything that's common to this snowball and this snowball? Okay? So I have an 18 snowball and a 36 snowball. Is there anything common to both of those? 18. So I can take an 18 out of 18 and I'm left with a 1. 36 divided by 18, I'm left with a 2. Remember that when you were canceling off, it's division, right? Now this top one, I have 4 x's. In that snowball, I have 4 x's. In this snowball, I have 7 x's. How many x's can I take out of both snowballs? 4. So I can take 4 x's out of this snowball, and I take 4 out of this one. How many am I left with? 7 minus 4 is? 3's. 3. So in the numerator, I'm left with a 1 times a 1 times a 1, which is a 1. Do I have to write a 1 if it's in the numerator? We've discussed this, yes. And then in the denominator, I'm left with a 2 times a 1 times an x cubed, which is a 2x cubed. Now I can write them like that, or I can write them in brackets as 2 separate snowballs. Doesn't matter when you get to the answer. Okay? And then we have to remember to go x can't equal 0. And we box our answers because we took a lot of work to get there, and we want to show them that we know that that's the answer. So box your solutions, okay? All right. B, I have a human. 3y minus my body, 9y squared is my feet. And then on the bottom, I have 2 snowballs. Can a human and a snowball ever cancel? So I immediately go to, can I GCF for difference of squares the human? Right? The snowballs will just stay snowballs. You don't have to reduce them or anyway. But in the numerator, I have a human. Can I take a GCF out of it or a difference of squares? I can take out a 3y. When I take out a 3y, 3y divided by 3y is not just gone. 3y divided by 3y, cancel, cancel, which is 1 over 1, which is 1. We agree? It's not just like evaporation. When you divide by the same thing, you get a 1. So 3y, take out a 3y, I'm left with a 1, minus 9y squared divided by 3y. What's 9 divided by 3? 3. What's y squared? Take out a y. A y. So there is my human. And then I have a 6 and a y cubed in the bottom. So that's the human. Snowball, snowball, get out of my leg. Snowball, snowball. Right? Anything not attached with plus or minus signs is snowballs. Yeah. It's not a perfect square though. Difference of squares has to be perfect squares. So it has to be, the first thing has to be a perfect square. So when you square root it, you get a whole number. So if I square root 3y squared, I'm going to get a decimal and like some y something. Like a root of y. So they have to be perfect squares. So like they have to be like x squared, x4, x6, x8 to be your variables. Your numbers have to be perfect squares. So like 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49. If it's none of those numbers, then it can't be a difference of square. So if it's like a 7, it's done. If it's like a 10, not going to happen. 9, maybe. 16 could be, right? And then the variables have to be squared. So x squared, x4, x6, x8. So the moment we have a 3, done. Can't happen. And the moment we have a single y, also done. All right. So let's state NPVs. I see something that's matched, but I'm not allowed to do them first. I have to state my restrictions and my NPVs. So you can write NPVs, you can write restrictions. I have 6 can't equal 0. Cool. I like it. It's useless, but it's true. Okay? Doesn't give me, it's not useless, I guess. It's just not an NPV. And my other one is y cubed can't equal 0. So if it's y cubed can't equal 0, y can't equal what? Just 0, right? Y cubed, y7, y squared, all going to be y can't equal 0. Because I could cube root it. When I cube root a 0, I get 0. So there's my restriction. Now I made the snowballs be red, and I made the humans be black. We agree? There is one human up there. Can it cancel anything off if there is one? No, so that bad boy's staying for life. So I'm going to have a 1 minus 3y, because it needs to be a twin, and there's literally only one, so it can't happen. Then I go to my snowballs, and I say a 3 and a 6. Can I take anything out of 3 and 6? Yes. 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now I have a y and a y cubed. I have 1 y on the top, 3 y's on the bottom. How many can I take out of both? It's always a smaller version, just so you know. 1, right? I have 1 up here, 3 down here. I can't take 3 out of 1. That makes no sense. So it has to be 1 out of 3. So let's take the smaller one out, okay? So I'm going to take 1 y out of the top and 1y out of the bottom. So what am I left with if I take 1y out of 3 y's? 2. So it's y squared. Yeah. So in the top, I'm left with 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 minus 3y. Well, I'm just left with that. On the bottom, I'm left with 2 times, because the slants are just 1. 2 times 1 times y squared. So it's 2y squared. I could put those in brackets if you want to or not. It's kind of weirdly written because I wrote it as if there was something else there. And then I have to follow behind with y can't equal 0. C. So C, I have a human and a human. Cool. Are they twins? No, they're not twins. That can cancel. So what do I immediately have to try and do? GCF, difference of squares. GCF, difference of squares, right? Well, these have 3's and these have 12, so immediately it can't be a difference of squares. Maybe if I GCF something else, it could end up being a difference of squares or not, right? So in the numerator, what could I take out of the numerator? 3a squared. If I take a 3a squared out of 3a cubed, I'm just left with a minus, what's 3a squared divided by 3a squared? 1. They don't just evaporate, right? 1, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So 3a squared divided by 3a squared is 1. Now this 3 and this a squared are what? Yeah. Snowballs, because they do not have a body. There's no plus or minus sign. Okay, the denominator, what can I take out? You can take out a 12, or you can take out a negative 12. Now, people will say to me, I don't know which one to take out. Well, if you take out a 12, and the twins don't match, then take out a negative 12. Okay? So I'm going to take a negative 12 out. If I take a negative 12 out of negative 12a, I'm left with just an a, correct? And that's what's 12 divided by negative 12? Minus 1. And look, I have twins. They match. If I had taken out a 12, everyone paying attention? If I had taken out just a 12, I would have a negative a plus a 1, and would they match? No, they'd be the exact same wrong sign. So if they're the exact same but wrong sign, take a negative out, and you'll fix your problem. Okay? Now this 12 is a snowball again. And I'm like, sweet, they can I'm like, girl, no. Girl, we talked about this. We must do what first? We must do restrictions. And you're like, yeah, They will give you the answer with you not doing restrictions until after you simplify. It's a common error. Don't fall for it. Be like, thanks, government. Thanks, Mrs. Lepp. Not falling for that crap. Cross those two off, and now you get 50-50 chance even if you have nothing left. Yeah. All right. So, our NPVs are our restrictions. Are negative, that is a really terrible thing. Negative 12 can equal 0. Thank you. True statement. Get away. And then I have a minus 1 can't equal 0. I add 1 to get a by itself. A can't equal 1. I'm like, cool. Super true. And now I'm like, I have done the restrictions. I can now cancel things off, which makes me happy. There's 2 humans here. There's an a minus 1 human in the numerator and an a minus 1 human in the denominator, and that should make you feel confident that you actually did some correct math, because things match, right? So twins, Gonzo Alfonso. Then I'm left with snowballs. And I say, are there any snowballs that I could take things out of? Remember, snowballs don't have to match perfectly. Snowballs just need to have common things taken out. Yeah.
You take out the 3 and then your 12 3 and then square.
Nope. We stop at that. So you'll have the a squared, you'll just be left, because there's no a in the bottom to cancel off. Because we're not solving. Right? We're not solving. There's no equal to 0, right? Okay. So we take a 3 out of 3, and we're left with a 1. Negative 12 divided by 3, and we're left with a negative 4. And so the a can't cancel because there's no single a's down here, or a cubes, or a 4s, or anything. So I'm left with 1, 1, a squared 1, which is a squared. And then I'm left with negative 4 on the bottom. And then I get people who are a little stuck. So can everyone put their hands down? Not your hands down, your hands are down. Put your pencils down. I want to show you something. The minus sign. Okay? If I give you 1 over negative 4, what does that equal in a decimal? Negative 0.25. True statement? Correct. What if I move the negative to the top? Negative 1 over positive 4. What do I get? Negative 0.25. So those are equivalent. True? There's one other thing I can do. I can go negative 1 over 4. Leave the negative completely out, which is a negative times a quarter, which is a negative times 0.25, which is a negative 0.25. Same answer. So when you have a negative sign, you can move it around. You can take the negative to the top. You can take the negative to the front. But you can only have one negative, right? If I went like this, oh, 1 over negative 4, cool, that's a negative. No, that's 0.25. That's no longer negative, correct? But if I'm like, okay, I want it up here, I'm just going to get rid of it down here, then that actually is. So you can move the negative sign around all you want. You can only have one. Remember, you have to have a positive and a negative to make a negative. We agree? Okay, so go back here. I could give, that is my answer. I could give this as my answer. I could give this as my answer. Which one's right? The one that matches the multiple choice. That's the one that's right. Okay? If it's a written response, all three of them are right. Pick one, move on. Okay? And we follow behind with A can't equal what? I'll leave that one just because it's the last one and I don't want to box the whole thing. Okay, you're going to flip over. Oh, all my drawings. Okay, example 2 in your turn. You're doing, these ones we're going to do tomorrow. These are the ones I want you to do right now. These have to be done for tomorrow because we're going through them immediately at the beginning of class. And then we're going through this, then we're going to have some homework. So, these 2 need to be completed for tomorrow. You have about 10. Get going. You have like 14-ish, maybe 15 minutes, somewhere around there.